gonna lie, but I don't know. It's crazy. Like I said,
All right.
Monopoly. I've been getting into Monopoly because it is strategic, and also chess. I love playing chess.
Yeah.
Usually I go with more like those type of games. Oh, like probably you've seen on my Instagram stories, or like people have seen on my Instagram stories. I do play cards. That's something that is something kind of like like a family thing. We
Mm-hmm.
usually play in any family event, any Ecuadorian. Buenos dias, everybody. This is take two because clearly I'm not functioning well.
It's the
But
last day of the month.
but yeah, it's the last day of the week. It is Friday. You know what that means. Unfortunately, I'm gonna take shots of water
Yeah, I'll do that too. Hold on. Cheers.
because we are healthy over here. Trying to
Mm-hmm.
end 2020 well. Just a quick disclaimer. This is just for entertainment purposes only. This is a conversation between me and Randy for fun. Don't take everything said here too hard or as an advice. Um, yeah.
All right. So let us jump into what topics we have for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So on the personal development, we have should you play video games? So that should be fun because I just got done playing a video game yesterday. So we'll talk about that. On the fitness, we have how to use fasting for fat loss. And on the finance, we have how to apply for credit and news updates.
That sounds
That's
actually
it.
interesting. Very cool.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so let me know, Mike, 'cause you're the one that doesn't really like playing video games. What's your take on the topic here?
Well, I never grew playing video games. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't because I didn't like them. It was because mainly like I was limited to it, like because like financial reasons. Like my parents couldn't afford to buy me. I remember back in the days, Game Boys were a thing because I remember my friend from schools they used to have it, and I used to play on theirs. I never got attracted to it. Like honestly, like once I got my first video console, it was like a little something that you connect to a TV. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like a big deal, like like PlayStation or Xbox, but it was kind of like arcade games. And I used to play it like here and there, but like I never been that sort of person that got so into it. I did get a PS2 here when I moved over here. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was on my high school years, and I used to play. I remember GTA was one of my favorite games. San Andreas. I played it. Like I remember playing it. I remember being there hours. But once the fuss like got it away, like me, usually like I get into it something like really fast, like for certain amount of time, I get bored, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like something cannot uh distract me for a long period of time. So I got bored, and eventually I stopped playing it altogether. Then I did get a PS3. It was a gift, and I played it for a long time. And same thing, like I never like got so to the point that I had to go buy video games. I had to wait for the latest release. Nah, I eventually took the console to Ecuador because I felt like every time I go on vacation, I should for my cousins is very interested. Like can like just spend time with them and show them that there's something cool
Mm-hmm.
out there. And yeah, but other than that, I do play video games on my phone here and there. So I usually play. Recently, I've been getting into Monopoly. It's a very interesting game, very lone game as well, but it's pretty cool. I do play Call of Duty Mobile as well. Pretty interesting, very cool. I recently started watching this a streamer. She's
Mm-hmm.
Ecuadorian. She's beautiful, bro. She's old though, but yo, she is hilarious. Like the video content that she makes is just fucking hilarious. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I don't spend too much time on video games. I seen my friends like literally go crazy about it. That's not me. Um, like I never been into that like that.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, that's one of the things with video games. Oftentimes people use it as an escape, right, from like
Mm-hmm.
reality. And we've talked about a little bit about it before. And that really just comes down to like the type of life that you're living, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not really a life that you enjoy, then of course you're going to want to escape it from time to time, and video games is a good way to go about doing that. So there's something to be said there about, you know, trying to organize your life in such a way that you actually want to live it, or you actually enjoy doing the things that you do. Because again, at the end of the day, like I feel like the thing with video games is that it's supposed to mimic some sort of journey, right? Journey through life, journey through becoming a better person or a better character, or more development in character. If you can apply the same aspects to your life, then I feel like that would make things a lot more interesting. Instead of learning those skills in the game, why don't you learn it in real life? Obviously, because in the game, it hypothetically, let's go back to the topic of mastery, or the topic of mastery. If it's supposedly said that it takes 10 years and 10,000 hours to master a skill. In a video game, you can bypass that and make that happen within a couple of hours, right? So you get a similar feeling to mastering skills, but in a much shorter time frame. But at the end of the day, that's not really fruitful because those skills don't really transfer to your life. And at the end of the day, when you stop playing that video game, reality comes back. And if you're not enjoying the things that you're doing, that is a problem. However, I was the type of person that did grow up with video games, and I still play them to this day. So the reason for that is not really because I'm trying to escape or anything, but because it's entertainment. I enjoy it in the same way you would enjoy watching a show, watching a movie. Exactly that. It's just entertainment for me, and depending on the games that you play, there's usually a story.
Right.
So recently, this new game released called Cyberpunk 2077. It's developed by this company that's really good about making story-driven games. It's just a really big, long story. And again, I like to unravel that and see what that's all about. In the same way you would read a book. To me, I mean, there was a point in my life where it did feel like the reason for playing video games was to escape my reality, but that was just mostly due to the fact that I was super young and I hated going to school because it was boring. But after that, everything kind of started falling into place, and you know, I started enjoying the things that I was doing in life, but video games wasn't like a focal point. So yeah, I would say just video games is not a problem unless it is for you. You have to understand that there's always got to be a balance, and the way you go about playing it is really just dependent on how you have your life structured.
Right.
And
Oh,
that's it,
definitely,
man.
definitely. I definitely agree with you. Like, there is some sort of joy that comes with playing video games, and also like it brings out the competitive side of you. It definitely makes things a little bit easier for that. I was more involved like in physical sports or physical competition, no, because I've been playing soccer since I was a little kid. Always got involved into those sort of activities. So that you should usually used to take a lot of time. In addition, I always been kind of like straight A, so I always put education, some sort of like mostly like a priority, and I think that comes back to like I said, the way that I grew up. So usually there weren't like enough time for me to spend playing video games because like during high school, I would say, for example, I will come from training like around 5-6 p.m. I used to take AP classes, so like right after I would start doing homework, and by the time the day is over, that by the time I finish it, the day is over. Like there wasn't enough time to do so,
Right.
and so at that time, then I felt like I don't know. In video games, I think they're fun. They're fun. Like I agree with you. Like that's why like whenever I go to your house, I know you have consoles. I'll be playing video games over there, just to like chill. But one game that I actually used to play a lot used to be FIFA and GTA, as well as Call of Duty. Those were like probably my top 3 games. Probably because they were the only video games I played. I do remember having a PSP.
That's a good one. I used to have them too.
Yeah. But then I don't know. To be honest, like I never been like that sort of kid that like values a lot of like games a lot. I remember I left my I think it was the charger or something in Ecuador. I forgot because I used to take it to travel because it's entertaining while traveling, and like I never really cared. I was like, cool, like I forgot. It is what it is. And then I never got a new one. Never tried to get it replaced. I just let it be. You know.
Mm. You know
Um,
what? I'm thinking like I'm gonna try to get you into PC gaming. Like, it goes hand in hand with coding and being a computer engineer.
wait, what?
So I'm gonna try to get you into PC gaming.
You did. You did try it. Remember with
No. I mean, I showed you, but I mean, like, I'm gonna actually get you into it.
no, yo, let me tell you, bro. I met this guy, right? We went like this kind of like group meeting for the school. And this guy started talking about this game, and I knew this game. I forgot the name of it, and then
Rocket
we
League.
hit it off, and we kind of talking, like like a little bit, and yeah, she get us fucked.
The
But
game was Rocket League, right?
yeah, luckily, like I didn't
Yeah.
know the name. Like she started explaining to me. I was like, "Yo, I know which one you're talking about. I played it before." And she's like, "Has anybody played this before?" And it's funny because she's very kind of nerdy, and I feel like this funny because uh, I started sitting apart on the type of girls that like.
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro.
It's funny though.
And the only reason you knew that was because I played it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Because
I
you
bought my
used to show
computer
me
and I
like
started playing it.
on the school, like you used to bring it on like on the library and you still start playing it, and it
Yeah.
was interesting. Like no, but I don't know. It's crazy. Like I said, Monopoly. I've been getting into Monopoly because it's strategic, and also chess. I love playing chess.
Yeah.
Usually I go with more like those type of games. Oh, like probably you've seen on my Instagram stories, or like people have seen on my Instagram stories. I do play cards. That's something that it's something kind of like like a family thing. We
Hmm.
usually play in any family event, any Ecuadorian event. They play cards, which I find interesting because we actually bet money, but it's cool.
I got a secret topic out of that. Let's see. Maybe we can try to bring it back on Wednesdays.
Oh, wait, yeah. But now, going back to the topic regarding should you play video games? In my experience, definitely is entertaining. Definitely, you can get some benefits out of it. Like I said, it definitely brings some, depending on the game that you're playing, can bring some critical thinking, logic, quick thinking, and um, also like your sense of competitivity, like competition. For example, if you go with board games, usually they're fun, entertaining. Um, Chess is definitely one of those that you kind of want to learn because, especially if you're going into the business side or like just life itself, you want to know the moves that you want to make, and that's something that I learned. Actually, it's this you might find it weird, but I play chess by myself here in my room. Like I have a chessboard, and I make a move usually every day, a different move from different sides. I know it's kind of weird. I just
The
find it
longest
interesting.
game ever, bro.
Now the game lasts like a month or so because sometimes I
Jesus
forget.
Christ.
But I have like a little thing like outside, like I change it the size. But it's kind of makes me think. Like just sometimes like in the morning. But
There's one last thing before we switch topics here. So
mhm.
if you're the type of person that maybe you play video games and you actually have aspirations of becoming a video game developer,
Oh yeah.
then I would say, obviously you got to play video games to kind of get a good idea of like what's out there. So to that end, then I really don't know how to advise you from there. Just like,
Mhm.
focus on making the video game and not getting too stuck on just playing them. But obviously you need to do your research to see what the competition is like. But yeah, there was a point in my life where I wanted to become a video game developer, but then
Mhm.
there's so much work involved by actually making video games. It's insane. Um, like these people are cranking out, especially towards release. They're putting in 100+ hours, just making sure that the code is working, making sure that everything is functioning, making sure that there's no bugs. There's so much to it. Like if you think developing a website is difficult, imagine that but on steroids. That's what basically making a video game is like.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, as part of my job, I teach kids to create Roblox games, and just that, bro. I've been developing a game myself, like a Roblox game, and it's still there. It's still working. This is still work in progress because there's always something that you want to think about, like the logical thinking about, like you want to put on every single case that the player might take action on, like every
There's
single way that
infinite
they can
cases.
cheat. But yeah, no, I find it interesting teaching specifically that course because kids they love it. Like it's interesting because they be playing Roblox a lot. Like my little cousins play Roblox, and I've been like talking to my cousins. I've been like, yo, like I was teaching them as well, and I don't know if they're still practicing, but it's really interesting to see that some kids are really passionate about it and they're really good at it. Trust me, because I'd be teaching them something and they'd be asking the right questions or the questions I myself don't know. And whenever they come to present, they actually present like a really good product, like games that are like literally they're working on, like they get out of the way to learn more things. So it's definitely like if you're passionate about video games, you definitely have the aspirations to become a video game developer, and that's a huge market out there as well. And if not just like video game developer, you can actually stream and like become like a YouTuber or a streamer, and that's also a huge market, like a huge payout. Like people
Very much.
literally make a living out of it just by playing video games. So don't think that that cannot be like a media, like a sort of living. So there's chance doing what you love and also doing some sort of living.
Yeah. But again, if playing video games is a distraction from your actual life, then I would say try to organize yourself a little bit better from that perspective.
Right.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's jump into the second topic here. How do you use fasting for fat loss? So it shouldn't take us too long.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what angle I want to approach this from.
Well, I can start with saying that what usually works is if you go into the long term. For example, we talk about intermittent fasting. So that's one way that can help you create that sort of discipline that can eventually, transfer into your life when, being consistent with the gym, consistent with the diet, consistent with the things that you're eating. So usually intermittent fasting will help you reduce the amount of food that you're intaking, as well as, help like keep your metabolism working for a long period of time, which can eventually lead to some fat loss. So that's the only thing that I can think about, fasting, being
Okay.
helpful. But you're dead.
So yeah, let me take this. So with fasting, one of the biggest issues with fasting is the fact that it's usually not a really sustainable way to lose fat, simply because it requires a lot of discipline. And usually you're not going to see like those really good results with fasting unless you do a prolonged fast. So prolonged fast is anything above 24 hours. So when I started talking about that, people were like, whoa, no, now you're getting crazy. You're telling me I can't eat for 24 plus hours? So yeah, a lot of it is built on the discipline that, you create as you keep doing the fast. It's common to start with, the intermittent fasting, that short period of like 16 to 8. So 16 hours you're not eating, 8 hours you eat. And then little by little, you start waning that down until eventually you get to a 24-hour window where you eat every day, but like once, right? So you skip 24 hours in a day and then you eat on the 25th hour. Or you push that a little bit further as to not maybe eat in the night and you do 36 hours, right? So you do a 24 plus a 12, and that 12 is usually that period of time where you're sleeping and you wake up and eat. And you just keep pushing that further and further. So I would say the best way to use fasting for fat loss is to first start with how much weight you're trying to lose, because oftentimes that's another big issue. You can just fast indefinitely. And there's a lot of health benefits to it, not just like losing fat, but like there's something called autophagy and apoptosis. So that's where the old cells in your body die, and you can kind of reuse those old cells to create new ones. So that's a really cool way to just help you, heal faster, regenerate whatever damaged tissue you have, and just generally just be healthier overall. Let's see what else. So yeah, we want to start with how much weight you're trying to lose, and then from there you can use fasting in a period of window within, like, so let's say hypothetically you're trying to lose 10 pounds. I would say you can start off with intermittent fasting first, and for like a month, see how that works out. Maybe you'll lose your 10 pounds right there. You don't really even have to push for the fasting, a little prolonged fasting. But if you're an individual that's really overweight, then obviously you're going to want to push this a little bit longer. So start out with your intermittent fasting, and then I would try to scale that all the way up to about 3 to 5 days. So that's about 72 to 120 hours on a prolonged fast. So hypothetically, let's start again. When you start off with month 1, you're doing intermittent fasting. In month number 2, now we're pushing towards a longer fast. So maybe we're doing a 24. So 20 hours you're not eating, 4 hours in the day you're eating. In month 3, now we're starting to get into prolonged fasting. So maybe every week or every other week, you can do a 1 to 2 day fast, or 24 to 48 hours. And then maybe month 4 or 5, that's where you can start pushing for those longer ones. So like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. I really want to go past like 5 days, 120 hours, just because after that, like, unless you're like dealing with a situation where you have to lose a massive amount of weight very quickly, it's not sustainable, and you're going to feel really weak. So since we already talked about
this time,
huh?
Will you recommend working out during this time?
You can, but you have to keep it very, very light, especially the longer you get into the fast. So I'll let you take over with the supplements, just because we already talked about it, because you've done it as well. So you talk about the supplements, and then I'll add in more into why you shouldn't work out too much.
Right. So the supplements that I remember is the salt. So it has to be sea salt. So this contains minerals that can help you. Your body is losing a lot of minerals, or actually needs minerals to like function. So salt is a good one. Sodium is another one that you add to the water that you drink. So this one keeps the hunger in place, like, doesn't make you feel hungry. There's another one.
Because it was sea salt or just salt. Potassium was the one that you were mentioning right there, not sodium. Yeah, sodium and salt is basically the same. Yes. And then the other one is magnesium.
Oh, magnesium. There you go.
Yeah. So those 3 it's like a really effective combo to kind of just help you mitigate the hunger. Not really, but it's mostly just to keep those the minerals that you need in your body active and give you electrolytes. Because again, fasting is going to drain you, and if you're not replenishing those electrolytes, very quickly you start getting zapped. Like, you just start feeling really tired, really dizzy, and obviously that's going to happen simply because you've never done it before, so your body's not even accustomed to it, and your blood sugars are low. So your body needs to learn how to function when the blood sugar is low. There is an adaptation period there, so you got to take your time with that.
Yeah, and you got to be ready to use the bathroom like any time on the day.
And that's another problem. So if you're going to be doing these prolonged fasting, I would suggest probably not needing to go out unless you really, really have to, and just be near a toilet, because everything that you put down into your body immediately goes out the other end. It's a good, again, it's a flush. It's also like a detox, and it just like gets everything out of you. I remember I was drinking this cup of water, and literally within 5 minutes, I had to go to the bathroom, and it wasn't to pee. So your body, once you get to that point, your body's just flushing everything out.
Yeah.
And that's why we're saying those electrolytes are really useful, because if you're flushing these things out, you're just going to start feeling like shit again. And that also brings up one more last thing here, one more point. So you don't want to overdo the liquids either. You don't want to be over consuming water and over consuming other things. Like, you can have like black coffee. That's a good way to blunt your appetite, and because keep sustaining the fast. But you can't add any sugar or milk, because that'll break the fast. Usually anything that will spike your insulin levels in the body, that's what's gonna stop the fast. So be careful with that. And you could have tea as well. That's always an option. But again, you're going to, if you drink too many liquids, everything is just going to flush out. So usually the recommendation, if you're going to do a prolonged fast, is to be drinking about 2 liters of water. And then you can mix in some of those minerals into it and just drink that throughout the day. Because if you drink like a gallon of water, again, that all gets flushed out. And then you're not really doing too much work there. You're just peeing and pooping a lot and everything's just going out.
Yeah. So why you shouldn't work out?
Okay, so now with the working out part. So again, you're depleted and your body needs to get accustomed to, like, again, working out in this state where you don't really have much energy reserves. So the whole point of the fasting is to get your body to utilize fat cells as an energy source. So what I mean by that is when your body gets really accustomed to metabolizing fat, simply because you're not eating anything, it turns it into these byproducts called ketones. And ketones are in a similar, if you want to compare them hand in hand, when your body metabolizes carbohydrates, it turns it into glucose. So ketones is the equivalent to glucose, but obviously for fat versus carbohydrates. So once your body can do that, that's when you can actively start doing things, because you have an energy source now. You have a supply of energy. But until your body gets adapted to that point, you're just going to feel absolutely drained, simply because you're not used to working at this capacity. So until you get accustomed to it, I would say really light workouts. You can do light cardio, so you can go for walks, right? When it comes to resistance training, I wouldn't really even try to push too much. Maybe do 2 sets if you're doing anything, any kind of like resistance training, and definitely do not keep the weight heavy. Maybe you can load up on volume, but even then you're wasting a lot of energy there, and your body's still not accustomed to working out with almost no supply of energy yet. So be very diligent. You really gotta get to that point where you feel like, okay, I actually feel good. I don't really feel tired. There's this thing where like you start feeling this like mental clarity when you start fasting for a longer period of time. Once you start getting to those parts, that's where you maybe want to start messing around with a little bit of exercise, see how it feels. If you still feel good after doing a couple reps and sets, then you can continue. But if you start feeling really fatigued, that's when you got to stop, because again, your body needs to get accustomed. You can't think that you're going to push your body this far and not have consequences to these actions. You have to be really diligent about it. So usually when it comes to fasting, it's recommended that you go see a doctor just to get your blood work checked, just to make sure that if you do this, that you won't trigger some sort of side effect that could cause you to end your life, because you don't really know. Also with the supplements, you don't know if you might take a potassium supplement or a magnesium supplement, and that might have some sort of side effect. So you want to be really diligent about that. If you want to be like this, the safest way possible, go see a doctor first, see what they would suggest, and then take it from there.
Oh, definitely. I definitely agree with you. Like, if you're not ready for it, because trust me, it's not just the physical aspect of fasting, but also it's the mental. Because like, you're gonna get hungry to the point that every little thing, every little something that you see, that is eatable, you wanna eat it.
It's not even that. It's like every thought becomes food.
Yes, so it's
like you're focusing on something or you're doing some work, and then immediately the thought of food comes into your head, and then immediately you start feeling super hungry. So it's a big it's a lot of discipline that's required. It's a big working discipline. So to that end, you can help build out your discipline by doing this, but simultaneously understand that it's like you're going to fight an uphill battle, because you got to eat. Your body knows it's got to eat, and you're not even giving it that. So have fun with that. All right. So let's finish off with the last topic here. And we have, how do you apply for credit?
All right. Well, credit. Like one of my professors used to say, everybody is born with a fucking credit of 0. Actually, no, everybody has a credit. So even if you're like a little kid, you have a credit. You're just not using it yet. So the moment that starts become useful, the moment that it starts becoming important, is as soon as you turn 18. So now there are options for you to start building your credit even before 18. that will be through your parents. So if they make you like authorized user on your credit cards, your name is already there. So your name starts already working with the credit that you have. Now, when it comes to for yourself, once you become independent, once you start becoming financially independent, well, that sounds really weird. Well, when you can apply for credit is when you're 18. So I remember my first credit card that I got, I was literally on the day that I turned 18, I went to get a credit card. Why? Because I already got into financial literacy. I already started reading. I started already educating myself about, how credit works, how finance works, because that's been a topic for me, like very, very important since I was a little kid. And I knew that I wanted to start building my credit since day one. So when I turned on my birthday, when I turned 18, I went and I got a credit card. Simple as that. Now, how you start building it better? You start using it, but you have to start using it mindful, consciously. So spend on the things that you already have the money to pay for. For example, let's say you want to buy a new, I don't know, something that costs $100. All right. So make sure that before you buy that thing that costs $100, you already have the $100. Especially if you are new with a credit card, this becomes so important because your the years of your credit is very, very young because you just open it, and you don't want to miss any payments because the consequences are really higher for you. So your credit card drops more than somebody who had a long period of time. And also, most likely, you only have one account, so that's also how your credit gets scored. All right. So another way that I started building my credit is when I went to Buffalo. I took some loans. So I was stupid enough to pay it off like as soon as I got the money. I wish I have made it some payments, maybe like at least like a monthly payment, and pay it off like within a year to increase my credit card. But when you close accounts, you lose your credit. Your credit goes down. So be careful with that. So if you have the opportunity to take some loans, do it. It's worth it, especially if you are young, if you're like 18, 19, or 20. Take some debt and pay it off with some period of time. So within like 3 years or 5 years, because that's gonna help you build the credit. That's gonna help you a lot. All right. Um, but yeah, you do want to keep a good credit because this fucking country runs on credit. Literally, if you go anywhere in the world, credit is not as important as how it is here in the U.S. All right. So yeah. So the way that you get the credit, yes, is through credit card. That's the easiest way that I can think of.
There's one other way and I think this is more for these individuals that kind of like fuck their credit or like they went completely sideways, and that's to go to a bank and get a secured credit card. So essentially, you put down the money that like is acceptable for you to have on the card. So usually, I think it's like maxes out at $1,000 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on this part, but I know that you can go to the bank, get a secured credit card. It's funded with the money that you already gave to the bank. So the bank doesn't give you the credit, right?
Yeah.
You give it to them, you use it, and then you pay it off. And if you can't, then they already have that collateral. That's for the individual that kind of like, let's say hypothetically you took some loans and, you decide just to not pay it off, or you're taking forever and it drops the shit out of your credit, or you buy stuff that you can't buy with credit, like you couldn't afford to buy. So that's a good way to help rebuild your credit, but also a good way to build your credit if you're starting out. Like you mentioned there with your parents, you can try to sign up under them, have a card that is linked to their account, and you can use that. That's how I did it. I used my father's account and built my credit out that way. And very quickly, once I turned, I think it was like 19, 20. For some reason, my bank was giving me so many issues with taking a credit card at 18. I don't know why, but so yeah, I did it with my father, and then after like a year or two, then I got my own credit card, and then I kept building out my my credit from there. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else? I would say, yeah, be diligent about paying off the card. Usually, the recommendation is to pay it off every month, like or every 2 weeks. Like pay the full balance. Don't keep
Yeah.
anything remaining.
Hmm.
On that part of loans, it's a weird thing, right? Because you're like, people tell you not to take loans. That
Hmm.
way it doesn't affect your credit. Yet if you do it effectively, it actually raises your credit. So there's this game that you have to play with
The game. Yeah.
finances and credit, simply because your credit won't go up if you constantly pay it all off, because it shows the bank that, all right, this guy can pay for all of his shit, but he
Hmm.
doesn't really use his credit, so there's no point. So you definitely want to be careful with that, or you want to be diligent with that.
Right.
Usually, though, taking out loans for school, depending on the school, right? If you take out big loans for school, that usually takes a while to pay back, so you
Right.
want to be careful with that. But now, if you're a little bit older and now you're taking out loans to buy a house or
Mhm.
paying for a car might be an issue, because that's a depreciating asset. We want to go with
Right.
things that are making us money. So like a house or an apartment complex or something like that. Taking out loans for that is usually a good idea.
Yeah.
Because obviously you got to have a lot of money up front to just buy it in cash, right? So taking out a loan where you have the 20% down payment, and then you take out your a mortgage, right, for the house. Now the bank helps you fund the other 80%, and you pay that back over time, usually
Mhm.
over a fixed period, depending on the rate that you take. The Usually the recommended one is like a 30-year
What do
fixed
you?
rate.
Yeah.
30-year, right? But you can apply for one that's shorter if you're
Mhm.
able to actually pay that out faster.
You can refinance, like let's say you already got the contract, you already got the mortgage for 30 years. Later on, you notice you get like a higher income, you're doing well with your business or whatever you with your career. What you can do is you can refinance. For example, a lot of people actually took advantage of the crisis and the interests were almost zero, and they refinanced their houses. So now they're paying
Mm-hmm.
lower than they were supposed to pay. So you gotta be smart. You gotta actually make the research regarding how the markets are doing, how the interest rates are affecting you, because you can refinance actually your credit card as well, and you can also, if you really can't pay your credit because you were kind of irresponsible on using it, you can apply for like what is it called, like credit forgiveness, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on that. But there's many ways that credit can be very helpful for you in the long run. But there's many ways that credit, and I think that there's more ways because we live in a consumerism society. The credit is gonna fuck you up. It's gonna ruin the life.
You got to be very careful with it, man.
Yeah, you gotta. And like I said, other countries, they don't require to have credit. Like they get more benefits paying debit rather than credit. So the US is the only country that values credit a lot, and it's really fucked up because a lot of people go bankrupt because of they misuse the credit. Because remember, it's like giving money to a fucking kid. You got
Mm-hmm.
this 10,000 grand here, go waste it. What do you
Pretty
do?
much.
Oh, I have 10,000 grand. Let me go buy blah 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 blah. Don't realize you gotta pay back eventually, all right? And you gotta pay higher because the interest rate. So be mindful of that. Not saying that credit is wrong, is bad. Credit is good if you use it
It's a
correctly.
tool. It's a
It's a
tool,
tool.
and if you use it correctly, then it will definitely enhance different aspects. But if you use it incorrectly, that's where the problems start.
So be mindful, be diligent on how you use it. But by all means, try to get it as soon as you're 18, because as soon as you're very young, because it's where you start building your credit a lot. Like,
Yes, sir.
and also, oh, one thing too, when you open your account, because I remember, because for me, and I didn't have an issue. Like they gave me trade grant right off the bat with Citibank. That's because I was working like full time back then. Because yeah, well, not full time. I was working on the summer because my birthday is on the summer, so I was working a summer job, and my pay was really good. And they saw my check, they were like,
Nice.
nice, and they just gave it to me. And then I opened a second account um because I was paying for college and I had the money, and I was like, how can I take advantage of this rather than me just paying
Paying
it
it in
off
full.
cash? How can I take advantage? And the really good thing about credit cards, they have rewards. If you spend a certain limit in certain amount of time, you get rewards. So do your research. There's tons of benefits. Like there's little people who become not millionaires, but they get a lot of money just by playing the cards right.
Yep.
Just by playing the fucking like credit cards rewards. Like they open an account, they get the reward, never use the credit card again, and so on forth. So there are some advantages. For example, with that new credit card, yeah, well, we can dive into what credit cards we have for another topic. That's a good one. But
Yep.
yeah, cool. All right, so let's jump into the news updates. Unless you have something else to add, Randy.
No, that's it. Let's just jump into news updates and let's wrap it up.
All right, so let's start with the unicorn that took the fly yesterday. Airbnb. Okay, so it was Thursday yesterday. Airbnb IPO finally. It closed up over 100 from its IPO price. Now
100%, right?
100%, yes. Now, what do you think the price for the IPO was?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find. I thought it was like around like 50, 60?
It was $68.
68.
That was the IPO price. And as soon as the stock opened, it went up to $146. And right now it's sitting on
165.
Right now?
No. On open, it went as high as 165 and then it pulled back.
Yeah. But it was crazy. It doubled in 1 year. Like I said,
in a day.
In a day, yes. So it has a lot of potential for the long term. Like I said, I myself gonna invest on some shares on Airbnb. Right now, the markets, this makes the 86.5 billion market cap of Airbnb more than Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott hotels chain combined. Bro, think about it. Those big ass chains all around the world, Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott, you probably had stayed in one of these sometime in your life because they're huge, they're everywhere. But Airbnb itself, it's higher than them combined, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. But it has a lot of potential, like I said, Airbnb. Now, traveling hasn't stopped. There's just people who travels differently. So there's a lot of potential for this unicorn. Now, we can explain unicorn in another section, but unicorns are like rising companies that, unexpectedly. But we can dive into that and talk about what makes a company a unicorn. All right, cool. In other news from me, Adobe, what's it called, had its earning reports yesterday. So it beat expectations on its Q4, and it was down 1.4 at the end of the day. We have Oracle, which is a software software company, yeah. It will also beat expectation yesterday and had a really strong revenue, but same thing, it stayed flat after hours, stayed almost the same. And this is because the market itself was on red yesterday. We expect to be red today as well. Lululemon, he also posted, he actually posted profit on Q3. So beat up expectations, but it was down as well by the end of the day. And we have Costco. If you don't know what
Costco
is.
or Costco.
Costco, yeah. It's where it's kind of like Walmart, but it's bigger and you need a membership. Same thing, beat up expectations, but this was beautiful. It rose 31%.
Ooh, it's big.
Absolutely. And now we have the elephant in the room, Snapchat and Twitter. They announced a partnership yesterday. So they both ended up actually in high numbers yesterday. What this partnership will be all about is that Twitter announced that it's collaborating with Snapchat to let users post tweets directly on their Snap stories. So like a retweet, just in another app. Kind of interesting. I don't use a Snapchat, but I don't know how that's very useful, but it definitely caused some, massive buyout because Twitter and Snapchat actually, they end up in the ultimate highs. Actually, Snapchat end up in the ultimate high. And yep, a fun fact or a fun interesting researchers discovered a new species of giant beak whale off Mexico's coast. That's pretty cool. I'm looking at the picture of it, and it's very adorable. It's enormous. But yeah, other than that, what you got for me?
So a couple things. So yeah, the market started off pretty bad yesterday. Again, overall market uncertainty due to the vaccines and how everything is going to work out moving forward. People are not really looking to invest, or they're pulling their money out little by little.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the EV, which is basically the only thing I'm trading, so the EV sector got hit hard with some funds being raised. Pretty much all the companies right now, just because their valuations are so high, are posting offerings to try to raise more capital to expand their companies more. Tesla did that earlier with like 5 billion a couple days ago. Now NEO did it yesterday, where they were going to post up like 62 million shares for the public to buy. So yeah, those are negative catalysts usually, simply because it drives the prices down. There's more dilution of shares, right? So there's more shares available to the public. So less of them is owned by the company or by a certain individual within the company. So usually that's a negative catalyst at first, but obviously this is to expand the company and make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually a good long-term sign. But you double that up with the fact that the market was dropping and, hit the EV market pretty hard. So we're going to wait and see how this all pans out. It's going to take a little longer to hit more highs and recover and, just go on a crazy uptrend. But for the time being, we're kind of just going to have to wait it out and see what happens moving forward with the whole economy and vaccine news and things like that.
Nice.
That's it.
Well, I do have actually. I just received my daily email news right now, so I'm just gonna go through over it really fast. There's actually some cool information. So in the global economy, the European Central Bank expected its pandemic stimulus program by about 600 billion to prop up the bloc economy. So this is for all Europe. Markets a little off or up, a little bit of down, as the House adjourned until next week, which means any relief bill will have to wait until next bill. They're getting lazy out there. But yeah, Pfizer, biotech, and other manufacturers have generated life-saving products at the breathtaking speed. And with the federal government not providing clear vaccine guidance, it's up to the states to decide who gets jabs first. Now, this is actually found interesting right here. Some states have draft plans for distributions, but many of them don't match up, and industry reps are fighting for spots at the front of the line. All right. A cadre of airline industry groups wrote to the U.S. health offices arguing that their members deserve priority status given the importance in distributing the vaccine across the country. Uber sent letters to all 50 state governors and President-elect Joe Biden, aiming to secure the same priority status for its drivers. And at least 22 different industries for cleaning suppliers to meat packers have written to the advisory committee on immunization practices, making similar cases for their workers. So everybody's trying to get hands on the vaccine. Is ultimately whoever it's the most important for the economy. So we will see what happens on that. Disney is getting busy. Now, yesterday it was their investors meeting. So 30,000 layups. That's huge.
I mean, that happened a while ago, no?
Well, that's happened. Yeah, I think this quarter. Now, 700 billion in losses from the pandemic and shares at the all-time high. Yeah, Disney is sitting on a good price right now. What is up? The house of mouse. Okay. So at its Investors Days, CEO Bob. Hold on, wait. That's my alarm. 7 a.m. At its Investors Day, CEO Bob Chapsky says the company Disney Plus streaming services has racked up 86.8 million subscribers in just 13 months. And this is all thankful to Baby Yoda, because what's his name? Grove. because he's fucking adorable. Who don't
Mhm.
like Yoda? Cool. Yeah, so to keep the momentum going, Disney will add more mature content for the likes of 21st Century Fox, ABC, and FX under the upcoming Star brand. And the next few years, it will release 10 Marvel series, 10 Star Wars series, 30 series of features under Disney Animation and Pixar's. So expect stay busy with Disney Plus. All right, so that's actually interesting. Now we have jobs. Applications for state unemployment benefits rose to 853,000 last week, the highest level since mid-September. Applications from self-employed and gig workers from federal programs rose 48%, but the program expires on December 26. Housing, a buying boom has added a collective $1 trillion in homeowner equity this year, an average of 17,000 per homeowner, according to the CoreLogic. But a crisis is brewing in the rental market. 11.4 million households are behind on rent. That's no bueno. An American could own 70 billion in rent, fees, and utility bills after federal evictions. Moratorium expires in month. Wow, that's actually interesting. Okay, so wealth in Q3, net household wealth rose 3.2 to 123 trillion according to the Federal Reserve, aided by rising real estate and stock portfolio values, but household debt rose 5.6% to 16.4 trillion as relief programs ended. So yeah, that's actually crazy. So people are going in debt because they cannot afford a living, like a roof over their head.
Well,
It is what it is.
times we're living now, man.
Yeah, it's hard times, man. It's very hard times. All right, so let's end it here because unless you have something else to add.
Nope, that's it.
Yeah,
Well
because
done.
it's getting a little bit long. All right, everybody, enjoy the weekend. We will see you next week, and with more interesting topics.
Deuce.
Peace. Oh shit, bro.